This week in the world of sports, the Dodgers keep spending. The Bills sack McDermott. The Steelers have a new coach and so much more. This is the Monday Report, starting now. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, January 26, 2026. And this is the Monday Report. I'm your host, H. James K. And boy, we got an interesting show for you today. We're going to talk about the MLB and the need for a salary cap. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott and all that. And then we're going to get some quick hits and we're going to get out of here. Short, sweet, and to the point. All right. So the Los Angeles Dodgers made another splash in free agency on Thursday as they convinced Kyle Tucker to sign a 4-year, $240 million contract. Tucker, a 27-year-old four-time All-Star who has won Silver Slugger and Golden Glove awards during his career, is now the second highest paid player in baseball on a per-year basis, behind only his teammate Shohei Ohtani. The Dodgers' projected payroll for the 2026 season is currently $413,597,413 after the Tucker signing. The next highest salaried team in baseball, the Mets, who missed out on Tucker, trail them by nearly $100 million, with a projected payroll of $317,018,064. The New York Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Philadelphia Phillies are the only other teams with payrolls over $300 million. For all of those teams to get close to the Los Angeles payroll, they'd have to add the entire Miami Marlins roster, which is set to make $100,146,666 in 2026. The Dodgers have $2.11 billion in payroll on their books now, though most of that is deferred through the year 2047. So, after all of that, what do I think? I think the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to go bankrupt again. Now, it's not going to happen this year, but $2 billion in payroll on top of all the other money they're going to have to add to their payroll down the line for the coming seasons. I mean, eventually you have to pay the salary piper. You can't just push things down the road. I mean, they're going to be paying Shohei Ohtani until like 2040. They're going to be paying, they're going to be paying one of their hitters, I think, until like 2047. No. Who was it? I don't know if he was a pitcher or not, but Edwin Diaz, I think is his name. They're going to be paying him until 2047. He'll be an old man before the Dodgers finish paying his salary. Now, part of me thinks that deferring salary shouldn't be legal, that you should just have to pay them that year. That way, teams are forced to have a more modest salary and a more modest payroll, because if you can kick the can down the road, you can get you can afford to, keep the tax man away. And speaking of tax man, so the Dodgers are going to have to pay the luxury tax because of their elaborate spending. There are certain limits. And this year, if you add in their additional luxury tax, which is like $161 million, they're going to be paying almost $600 million total for their payroll in 2026. And this is on top of the fact that the Dodgers are the back-to-back Major League Baseball League champions. They've won the championship the last 2 years, and they've got a roster that's more expensive than any other roster in the history of sports. It's ridiculous. I mean, it is truly ridiculous. Now, there are what solutions? As I said, you could ban deferring payments so that you have to pay, that you have to pay them in the season. And I guess the way you would do that practically is you say that all deferred contracts can remain deferred, but all new contracts have to be paid in the seasons that the player is on the team. And another thing I think you have to do is you need a salary cap. There has to be a salary cap. Now, maybe you set that salary cap at like $280 million. That would force the Dodgers to have to cut some significant salary cap, pushing that talent down the league. But at the same time, I think it is also necessary that these teams, there needs to be a salary floor. Like, personally, I think the salary floor should be $200 million a year. That you should have to have a total payroll of a minimum of $200 million and a maximum of $280 million. That way, there is a little wiggle room depending on if you're a small market or a big market team. But everyone has to reach a certain competitive kind of limit. Because as it stands right now, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like the Tigers payroll, I'm pretty sure, is like $180 million, $186 million, somewhere in there. And what it basically means is Tarek Skubal is not going to be a Tiger once this contract is done. And I'll say it now. He'll be playing for the LA Dodgers when in his time for his next contract. They'll come along and say, "Hey, how would you like a 5-year contract paying you $70 million a year?" "Oh, but we'll just defer most of that money to like 2,157 or whatever year they want." And then he'll be on the Dodgers. I mean, what do you expect the Tigers to do there? The Tigers can't pay him $70 million. Now, I think they should do whatever they have to do to pay him, but that's just not, the Tigers are a small market team, and small market teams don't pay that kind of money. So, with the signing of Kyle Tucker, we have seen a lot of fans and a lot of the teams in the league saying, "Okay, it's time for a salary cap. This is ridiculous." Now, do I think there is going to be a salary cap? No. Are you kidding me? They won't. It took like 40 years for instant replay to become a widely adopted thing in Major League Baseball. Instant replay. Football has been doing it for years. But for baseball, it was like, it was pulling teeth. They need to go to RoboRef to do balls and strikes, but they won't because they don't want to take the power away from the refs. So, I think this salary cap, Major League Baseball will get a salary cap. The first year of the salary cap will be like 2,085, because that's how long it seems it takes for baseball to make the change. But I think it's absolutely necessary. And honestly, it hurts the product because here's the thing. People wanted the Blue Jays to win, but the Blue Jays just didn't have a chance. And come next year, come not next year, but this coming October, when the Dodgers are in the World Series again, everyone in the world is going to be rooting for the other team, yet the other team is going to lose. And the Dodgers are going to win their 3rd straight World Series, which I think will tie the all-time record for consecutive World Series. So, if that happens, you're going to see disinterest. I mean, no one likes to see a team that just gets all the best players, has all the best facilities, wins all the games year after year after year. I mean, eventually it becomes a drag. NASCAR had this problem when Jimmy Johnson was dominating. It hurt interest because it was like, what's the point if he's going to sandbag his way through the season and then make the chase and then win the championship? They changed the rules like twice to kind of combat Jimmy Johnson because it was hurting the show. Baseball, it's going to hurt the show if the Dodgers can just run away with their payroll every year and outspend everybody and just, there's no consequences. Now, eventually this will stop. There is no way the Dodgers can keep spending like this. They've gone broke before. They've declared bankruptcy once before, and I think it's going to happen again because $2 billion now, plus probably another $400 million in extra payroll over the next 5 years. I mean, how is that possible? So, it's got to change. It won't though, but it's got to change. All right, moving on. The Buffalo Bills. Oh, the Buffalo Bills. People forgot for about 9 years that the Buffalo Bills are a poorly run organization with a really bad owner. So Terry Pegula is the owner of the Buffalo Bills and the National Hockey League's Buffalo Sabres. And he fired longtime head coach, very accomplished head coach, Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott was fired after 9 seasons and a 106-58 record if you account for his 8-8 playoff record, as well as his 98 and 50 record in the regular season. So this fire is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, to be honest with you. It's just really, really, really dumb. Background information. This firing comes after a stunning loss in the AFC divisional round to the 1 seed Denver Broncos in Denver. Now, you might say, yeah, but it's, they were the lower seed. Why is it stunning? Well, everyone thought that because there was no Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and no Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and no Joe Burrow and the Bengals, that this was the year when the Bills and Josh Allen were finally going to get over the hump and win and go to the Super Bowl, maybe even win a Super Bowl, because all of the obstacles that have been keeping the Bills out of the Super Bowl were out of the way. And then they turned the ball over 4 times and they lost to a very good Denver Broncos team, but still, Josh Allen is one of the best players in the world. So the thinking was that was going to make a difference. But that disregards the fact that the team had one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. They had no talent at wide receiver, and the back end of their defense was kind of suspect. They had an okay offensive line, but not a great one. And the tight end position basically didn't exist. The team was very talented and they won a lot of games, but there were deficiencies on the roster. And from what we've heard, Sean McDermott raised these deficiencies with then general manager Brandon Beane and owner Terry Pegula. And I guess Brandon Beane and Pegula did not like this one bit, and then couple that with losing to Denver, and they just fired Sean McDermott. Now, if the fans had gotten their way, Sean McDermott would have been retained, and general manager Brandon Beane would have been fired because of his roster construction. Get a load of this. So, since Brandon Beane became the general manager 8 years ago, he has drafted 54 players. Of those 54, only 2 of them have made the Pro Bowl. 2 players. In other words, every player that Brandon Beane has drafted is a bust. Just straight up. They don't work out. And this is a team that doesn't do well they don't do a lot of free agency stuff, so it's really just been Josh Allen, save us from the pit of despair. And fans have wanted Brandon Beane gone for 3 years. They've wanted him gone for years because he refuses to address the defense, and he just out and out refuses to address the wide receiver position. And then 2 years ago, the Bills draft Keon Coleman, the wide receiver from Michigan State. Big body, big catch radius, but he's slow and he's a sloppy route runner. And at the time when he ran a very disappointing 40 at the combine, Brandon Beane actually said, well, maybe it's a good thing that he ran slow because it'll be easier for us to draft him. Brandon Beane was very high on Keon Coleman during the draft process. And then last week, Terry Pegula and Brandon Beane actually claimed that, well, no, we only stuck up for the Keon Coleman pick because that's a guy that Sean McDermott wanted. Now, the reason this is relevant is that Keon Coleman has been an abject disaster. In 2025, there were multiple games where he didn't even dress. It wasn't that, he's not starting. No, they didn't even dress him. He wasn't even on the game day roster. And for those who don't know, the roster is 52 players. And then the game day roster is 48. So when it came to game day, they were telling Keon Coleman, don't even dress. We're going to use your roster spot on game day for someone else. That's how bad he was. So the fans have been placing the blame for that at the feet of Brandon Beane. But what ended up happening is Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula blame Sean McDermott for that. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about the reason why McDermott was fired. According to Bills owner Terry Pegula in the press conference he gave on like Tuesday or Wednesday of this last week. So the game happens on Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, and so says Terry Pegula, he walked into the locker room and he felt just the outpouring of despondent emotion. He just felt how crushed everyone was. And then he says that he went over to Josh Allen, who was crying because Josh Allen blamed himself for the loss because he had like 4 turnovers. He said he's the reason why they lost. So he told the press that. And of course the players were despondent because they don't think that Josh Allen, that it's his fault, that it's everybody's fault instead. So Terry Pegula supposedly walks into the locker room and tries to, talk to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is just despondent and he's crying and he doesn't acknowledge him twice. And according to Terry Pegula, that told him then that Sean McDermott needed to go. Let that thinking kind of settle in your brain. So because Josh Allen, in a moment of deep emotion, didn't notice the owner said, oh, well, I need to fire the head coach because clearly this roster is just falling apart and we need a change in leadership. Yeah. It was bad. And Brandon Beane. So everyone thought Brandon Beane would get fired, and then Sean McDermott gets fired. And Brandon Beane got promoted to the president of football operations. So it's clear that the owner chose Brandon Beane instead of Sean McDermott, even though Sean McDermott is the first successful head coach the Bills have had since like Bill Parcells back in like the 80s. So, before McDermott, they had like a 16-year playoff drought. And then they missed the playoffs in the first year of his thing, and then they made the playoffs the next 8 seasons under McDermott. So, in that environment, who in their right mind would want to be the head coach of the Bills? Because you're expected to go not only make the playoffs, to win your division, make the playoffs, and win games and go to the Super Bowl. That is the basic minimum requirement for the Bills now. Because clearly, Sean McDermott's win your division most years, get to the playoffs, you win some, you lose some, wasn't enough. Excuse me. So, Sean McDermott is a good coach. He's a great coach. And now he's gone. Who in their right mind would want to coach this job? And then, days later, we hear that the Buffalo Bills are interviewing Philip Rivers to be their new head coach. Now, for those of you who don't know, Philip Rivers is a future Hall of Fame quarterback. He played forever and ever and ever with the San Diego Chargers and then finished his career with the Indiana Colts. He was retired since 2020, but he came out of retirement to play for the Colts for like 6 games in 2025. He's been coaching high school football. Now, by all accounts, Philip Rivers has one of the best minds in football, and his experience was unlike anything that had been seen so far, this season. He's just smarter than most quarterbacks these days. But that doesn't make him an NFL head coach. And yet he's having serious conversations with the Bills about it. It just blows my mind. It's one of those where if it was me, I would give the new head coach one. If I was Josh Allen, I would give the new head coach and the new staff and the new direction of the team 1 season. And if we don't go far, I would force a trade to any playoff contender I could get. Seriously. Like, if the Rams lose Stafford and they're kind of in transition for 26, if Stafford retires, I would say, okay, I want you to trade me to the Rams because I'm done playing for you. And just force the issue. Force your way out. Because Josh Allen is too talented to be wasted on a team like the Buffalo Bills, who have incompetent, emotionally charged leadership and horribly run front office. Like, they always say, never make big decisions when you're upset. Never make big decisions when the emotions are high. Yet, that's exactly what Terry Pegula did. He fired their longtime, highly successful head coach right after a horrible, gut-wrenching loss in the playoffs. It's just, it's remarkable. It's truly remarkable. Josh Allen, get out. Get out, bro. Just say, I'm done. I'm not playing for a team that doesn't value talented coaches and is willing to just throw anyone away because they didn't, And here's the other part of it. What message does Terry Pegula's words about how because Josh Allen didn't acknowledge him that he fired Sean McDermott, what message does that send to your quarterback? The quarterback who is known to blame himself for failure and was already blaming himself for the team's loss. Now you're telling him your failure to win the game made me fire the head coach. It's your fault. That's ludicrous. That's crazy. And in this press conference, Terry Pegula and Brandon Beane threw Keon Coleman under the bus. They named him. They pointed him out by name as well. No. He was directed. He was wanted. The coaching staff wanted to. We didn't want to draft him. I mean, what does that message does that send to your locker room? The whole thing just blows my mind. I mean, it was the wildest thing I've ever seen, and it's further proof that these owners are not media trained, and there's a reason why the best owners never, ever, ever talk to the media. Robert Kraft of the Patriots, you don't see him talk to the media. He just minds his own business and hires the right people and lets them run the team. Which is in vast contrast to guys like Jerry Jones, who is the owner and the GM, and he's a horrible GM, and it's, but I couldn't believe that they fired him. I mean, that's just, Sean McDermott is going to take the year off, and then in the next coaching cycle, he's going to get the top job because he's the best coach available. I mean, what do you expect? It's crazy. It's outrageous. I was actually I was kind of angry. I was like, what are you doing? That's so stupid to fire a good coach, to blow it up when it's the best the Bills have been in 30 plus years. Well, if Terry Pegula wants to go back to having a bad football team and a bad hockey team, then that's his prerogative. Excuse me. All right, let's get to some quick hits. So Michigan running back Bryson Kuzdal, who was the third-string running back for the Michigan Wolverines in the 2025 season, and then finished the year as the second-stringer and played a lot of snaps, and he was kind of the starter for the Ohio State game and the bowl game. Well, he jumped in the portal after during the whole transition and the new staff coming in, and Justice Haynes leaves in the portal, and then they bring in Taylor Tatum, and then he kind of jumps in the portal. Well, Bryson Kuzdal has returned to Michigan, withdrawing from the portal. At the same time, new running back transfer Taylor Tatum from Oklahoma will be starting out at safety instead of running back. I guess the scuttlebutt I'm hearing is that his fumbling issues at Oklahoma were a thing, but I guess they just like him at safety, so he's going to be starting out at safety. And Kuzdal is coming back to join the running room, which is going to be Jordan Marshall, Savion Hyder, and now Bryson Kuzdal. According to the San Francisco 49ers GM John Lynch, wide receiver Brandon Ayuk has played his last snap as a 49er. So for those who don't know, Brandon Ayuk has wanted out and wanted more money, and it's just there's been lots of discord between him and the organization, the Niners organization, all year. He held out during training camp, and he didn't play, and he didn't play most of the season if he played at all. So the 49ers GM has said that, yeah, he's gone. Now, I don't know if they're going to trade him, cut him now, or then maybe wait till after June 1st to cut him. I don't know. But John Lynch has said that Brandon Ayuk has played his last snap as a San Francisco 49er. All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers have hired former Green Bay Packers and Dallas Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy to fill their vacant head coach position. So this is a very interesting decision because Mike McCarthy is very much a retread from a previous generation of head coach. He has won a Super Bowl. He won one with Aaron Rodgers in 2011, but he's not a modern head coach and he doesn't have modern results. It's like they signed white, offensive-minded Mike Tomlin after firing Mike Tomlin. It's crazy. Now, the Steelers, it's either going to work or it's not. And if it works, then they're going to continue. That means they're going to be winning 10 games, go to the playoffs, lose. It'll just be a continuation of the Mike Tomlin era. But if he fails, it'll be catastrophic, and it'll be the first time that they've ever fired a head coach. Now, because it's the Steelers, he's going to get like 5 years to make this work. They've never fired a head coach in the history of the the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And I know for a fact that Steelers fans are not happy with this signing at all. It's asinine. It makes no sense. How can you be a guy who was fired by the Packers and then years later is hired by the Cowboys and then fired by the Cowboys? How do you give that guy a third chance? It makes no sense. And this is when you had guys like Jesse Minter, Brian Flores, Bobby Slowick, Jeff Hafley. I mean, there were so many young up-and-coming coaches with more promise and more potential than a guy like Mike McCarthy. And yet that is the kind of safe decision that the Steelers made. It blew my mind. It was like, really? But, we'll see how it works out. Bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it works out for him. All right, the Detroit Red Wings are currently 32-16-5 on the season. They lead the Atlantic Division and are second overall in the Eastern Conference behind the Carolina Hurricanes. This is the best start for the Red Wings in many, many, many years. It's looking like the Yzer plan, as everyone has jokingly called it, that, because Steve Yzerman is the GM now. It's looking like the Yzer plan is finally taking off. The team is finally starting to look like a winning squad. Now, we'll see. We'll see how they close down the stretch because they had a pretty hot start last year, and then injuries, it just kind of hurt them down the stretch, and they just moseyed on down the stretch and missed the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen this year because of how much of what their record currently is, but we'll have to see how they close it out. If they have a good close to the season and they make the playoffs, and it's like, yeah, the Wings are back, baby, and hockey is better when the Wings are better. And that's not just me saying that because I'm a Detroit sports fan, but the Red Wings are one of the original six. They are a hockey blue blood. Even though Detroit is a failing town and they're part of the Rust Belt and all that, even in spite of that, the Red Wings it's better when the Wings are a talented team and are winning things in the playoffs. So I'm hoping that this is the start of something great for the Red Wings. I always kind of knew that Steve Yzerman would work out eventually with Detroit as the GM. I mean, that's kind of how it worked with him as a player. It worked out eventually. So, very excited about it. All right. So, for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and everywhere else that podcasts are available, thank you. For those of you watching on YouTube, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Feed the algorithm to help us spread the word. Next week, we're going to do a Super Bowl preview because we will know who the Super Bowl teams are. And I will probably do a bit more in-depth of a Formula One teaser, maybe, because I think there will be a round of testing after, between now and then. Either way, my name is H. James K. Thank y'all for tuning in. Until next time.